Fatty liver disease rise in kids, now a concern. The Washington Post reported this week on a new disease in children. Fatty liver was a disease of the old. The kids are starting to now get sick. So while that may have been true a generation ago, something scientists are still trying to figure out changed in the early 2000s. Pediatricians across the United States began reporting cases of children as young as 2 and through their teens with globs of fat cells in their liver in concentrations that should not be normal. And some of the patients were very ill. And before the turn of the century, there was only a handful of documented cases of pediatric fatty liver disease in the medical literature. So what's changed? Millions are affected, and researchers in the Journal of Clinical Liver Disease estimated at least 5 to 10% of all U.S. children have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. These kids are not drinking alcohol. I believe that rate is actually 25% and 45% in adults. This is making it as common as asthma. Hospitalizations have surged with over 1 million patients, mainly adults, treated in emergency rooms, admitted in 2020. And liver transplants have likewise grown among adolescents and young adults, with a 25% increase during the past decade in children 11 to 17 years old. Transplants from adults age 18 to 34 more than doubled in the past. So this is a huge concern. And the escalation of the fatty liver cases has unfolded with, of course, the other diseases like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and even gallstones. That's why we got to do our liver flushes. So what is going on? Fatty liver directly connected to insulin resistance. Now, what is the cause of insulin resistance? We've got to take a step back, right? Well, processed foods. I've got 3 kids. I've got 3 kids that were born in the early 2000s. So this is my generation of kids. And when I would go to parties and to see snacks and brown bag lunches, there was no real food in there, you guys. It's all processed foods. Processed foods is not real food. Processed foods have been filled with fructose, seed oils, GMO grains, artificial sweeteners, and they've had all the fiber taken out. So all of these factors increase insulin resistance at an accelerated rate. I literally told my kids when they were young, if you're drinking juice or Capri Sun or those fruit boxes that everyone thinks are so healthy, it's literally like putting cocaine in your vein, because there's no fiber to slow down that sugar, and it's not even natural sugar. So let's break it down. Fructose is different than glucose or regular sugar. It's metabolized in the liver, different from glucose. It converts directly into liver fat instead of being utilized effectively for energy. Then it lowers ATP, which is energy in the cell's mitochondria. All of these components lead to insulin resistance, elevated blood triglycerides, hypertension, and high uric acid levels. Fiber. So the fiber helps slow down the rise in blood sugar when it's paired with carbs, like in an apple or an orange. But when you're drinking orange juice, it's like drinking 5 oranges without the fiber. If you tried to eat 5 oranges, go ahead. I want you to try. You'll throw up because your body's naturally going to say, no, that's way too much. But drinking that orange juice, you're going to say, okay, now where's breakfast? In processed foods, the fiber is missing and the blood sugar spikes significantly, leading to a quick onset of insulin resistance. And then on top of that, the processed foods have the added fructose and sugar, which spikes the blood even more. And then you add in the seed oils, and seed oils including canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, rice bran oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, and peanut oil all put the body in a pro-inflammatory state, which actually makes the cells insulin resistant at the cell level. That's without sugar. And you always think, well, insulin's all connected to sugar. Not necessarily. These bad inflammatory oils are making things worse. And then they put in these artificial sweeteners, not just sweeteners that make you taste good, food tastes good, but these sweeteners that don't even taste like anything, that go down in the gut and trick the gut into thinking you're more hungry and telling your brain you want more of that processed foods. These sweeteners actually signal the gut to the brain cravings for more sweet foods and processed foods. It's not telling your brain you want some more wild animal protein or some healthy foods. It's telling you that you want those processed foods. And then these ingredients cause leaky gut, may back up the liver, hinder fat and protein metabolism, which occurs in the liver, and contribute to fatty liver disease. Your liver, you gotta love your liver. Your liver is your master detoxification organ. And right now we are being bombarded with so many toxins, so much radiation, and our livers are overwhelmed already before adding in the processed foods. And these foods are hyper palatable. So these kids are eating these foods and it's blunting their real taste buds. So when they eat the normal apple, it doesn't taste sweet. So they don't want to eat it. And then they just are hooked on these processed foods. And in nature, fats and carbs don't come together unless it's in nuts and dairy. And those are two foods meant to fatten up the animal, fatten up that liver fat, right? Well, that's not normal. Processed foods combine these extreme sweet tastes with salt, with fat, all together in one. And so your cravings become uncontrollable. Then you've got these emulsifiers in these processed foods that are meant to hold the fat and the water together to extend their shelf life, right? The Dunkin' Donuts or the Twinkies, they will last on the shelf for years. Try it, right? And there's a reason. So these emulsifiers cause the sensory neurons in the gut to retract that measure incoming nutrients. As a consequence, the signaling from CCK, which is a hormone telling your brain, okay, I've had enough to eat, let's stop eating, right? Suppress the appetite. It cuts that down. So then you eat, and then you want to eat more, but you only want to eat more of the hyper palatable processed foods. So you're never going to binge on a ribeye steak or some salmon. You're only going to binge on these hyper palatable foods that these big companies have put together. And everyone thinks it's normal because everyone is eating. 67% of our kids' diet is processed foods. That means less than 40% of their diets is real food from nature. This is a problem, you guys. This was not happening before 1980. And then you've got all the gluten and the grains. These cause leaky gut. They're also laden with glyphosate and GMOs, which further destroy the gut microbiome, increase estrogen dominance, steal the nutrients from the body from the good food that you're eating. And it's making a huge disruption in your dopamine. Your dopamine is your feel-good hormone, your motivation. Let's go after it, right? These kids are also suffering from mental issues, right? This is one of the factors. There are 3 separate and parallel pathways from the brain where sugar triggers a dopamine release and reinforces the seeking of more sugar. Most drugs, cocaine, heroin, alcohol, have one pathway. This is why sugar addiction is so strong and difficult to overcome with our children. That's why they're eating more, causing more visceral fat, more liver fat, and creating this fatty liver disease without alcohol. There's the taste of sweet. It leads to a huge release of dopamine, causes you to crave more. There's the post-ingestive dopamine. This occurs when in the gut, where the body's registering food, and that increases the glucose in the blood, and it occurs about 15 minutes after you eat. This will activate dopamine pathways telling your brain, eat more. Have you ever wondered why you would be more hungry after you started eating? Think about it. You should be less hungry every time you take a bite. That's not what happens. Maltodextrin is a hidden sugar that raises your blood sugar higher than sugar itself, and it doesn't even taste sweet. It's used in crackers and chips that don't taste sweet to tell your gut, to tell your brain, I want more of that. Then there's a third pathway, the rise in blood glucose. If the gut registers any food that will increase blood glucose, it will increase the cravings for a survival mechanism to store more energy. So the consumption of fructose, particularly in the form of added sugar, has been linked to the development of insulin resistance. And yes, it's found in fruits and vegetables, but they've got the fiber. This fructose increases liver fat. Excessive fructose consumption promotes that accumulation of fat in the liver, and it's also interfering with insulin signaling that contributes to insulin resistance and liver disease and diabetes. It will also elevate the triglycerides, and that has been shown. It is associated with high triglycerides and insulin resistance and an increase in cardiovascular disease. It also, this fructose will impair the insulin signaling pathways in various tissues, causing a normal function of these insulin receptors to go haywire, leading to decreased insulin sensitivity. And so then you're not taking up the sugar in your cells for real energy. You are also going to get increased uric acid levels from fructose. Fructose metabolism raises that uric acid level in the blood, and that's been associated with insulin resistance and an increase in metabolic diseases. So what do? Get the processed foods out of the house. I'm not against carbs. Eat the whole carbs. Eat the brown rice and the sweet potatoes and the whole vegetables, right? But let's get the processed foods out of the diet for our kids. Get the sodas out. You are in charge of their diet. You're paying for their cell phone. You're paying for their allowance. You are in charge. As a mom, I'm in charge. Even with my kids in college, I tell them, I say, hey, if you're going to eat crap, I'm not paying for it. And if it really gets out of hand, you can pay for your cell phone. You guys are in charge as parents. So what are the 3 supplements to reverse insulin resistance and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in our kids? Accelerated keto is the number one. And why? This converts saturated liver fat into unsaturated fat, which is easier for the body to burn and utilize, and it goes directly after that liver fat. It accelerates the reduction of liver fat and in turn reduces insulin resistance and uric acid in our children. It suppresses the cravings for sugar, fructose, and processed foods, so our kids can actually get hold of their willpower and their appetite. These are the foods that increase insulin resistance and fatty liver, so we need to control their appetite. It reduces oxidative stress and inflammation throughout the body, which will help with insulin sensitivity. When their insulin sensitivity improves, they're going to actually want to get up off the couch and go out and play instead of stay on social media. It will increase their ATP in the mitochondria, which is their true cellular energy, by 10 times the amount produced when consuming sugar. And this is in a stark contrast to how fructose is processing, how fructose in the processed food actually lowers ATP and steals energy from the cells. So accelerated keto is the number one supplement to give your kids to help get things under control. Accelerated copper. So copper operates through various pathways to combat insulin resistance and uric acid levels and obesity in our children. And it will inhibit something called the polyol pathway. This is responsible for converting glucose into sorbitol and fructose. So this mechanism maintains a balanced level of uric acid, which prevents insulin resistance and excessive weight gain. It regulates the triglycerides in liver fat. It's essential for fat metabolism, and it improves fat cell metabolism as well, promotes fat burning, and regulates iron and oxidative stress, which helps people and adults and kids get more energy from their iron. Copper is the key to let iron to get to where it needs to go in the body. You've got plenty of iron in your body. It's just in the wrong places. The accelerated scalar copper is the only liquid copper supplement with 100% absorption versus 5 to 10% in other supplements. Lastly, Like always, iodine. Now, iodine, for so many reasons, is important for your children. This creates apoptosis, which kids go through more than anyone else in their stage, because that is when you're going through puberty, there's a lot of turnover of cells, and apoptosis is the destruction of diseased and cancer cells, and the improvement and healthy cells populating the body. So there's a lot of change going on, and that's why iodine is so key, and it's so important for their brain and IQ. But in this regard, the accumulation of uric acid is partially attributed to liver overload, and accelerated iodine supports the liver and blood cleansing, mitigating liver congestion due to uric acid and insulin resistance. Moreover, the accelerated boosts metabolism, enhances fat oxidation, regulates blood sugar, balances hormones, and promotes cellular hydration. So many reasons that your kids need to be on accelerated. Once again, my kids don't have a choice. If they choose not to take it, then their cell phones go away. It is the only one that is a monoatomic, meaning one molecule of iodine, radiation-free iodine that has 100% absorption into all 100 trillion cells of the body. All of these supplements are enhanced with scalar frequencies. And if you don't understand what that means, go onto my website and search scalar, and you will see an article explaining exactly what it is. But essentially, it is taking the efficacy and the ability for these supplements to restore your body to a much higher level. So hopefully that was helpful. This is so important, you guys. Get these kids off of processed foods. Get the juices out. Let them drink iced tea if they need the little caffeine. Sweeten it with stevia or monk fruit. But get these sodas, the fruit juices, and out of their diet. Replace it with the fresh fruits. Replace it with the wild animal protein. On my website, I've got the accelerated food guide to give you lots of ideas about what to cook, what to put in their lunches, and they'll feel better mentally and physically. So thanks for joining me today. If I can help you with your health issues, contact me through SaraBantaHealth.com. Happy to put together a protocol for you. Join the free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. There's no downside. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to not only enhance your health, but to be a better mom or dad, and how you can do it with your children. You will be a part of a like-minded group to support you on your journey, in addition to truly taking control of your health. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, across over 100 channels under Accelerated Health TV and radio show. And my goal is to reach everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So help me with that goal, especially when it comes to our children. We are so desperate out there, you guys, and I am so passionate about this, as I'm seeing my children and their friends suffering. And let's get out of the feeling of we've got to be normal, because normal is not going to get you where you need to go. We'll see you next time.